Hey, Chris, Liege Games, baby, let's do this. So, top 5 games in my collection. Multiplayer games, we're going to put some parameters on this, that I will get out when someone new comes to my house that is not yay deep into our hobby. Games to introduce people to when they say, well, what kind of board games do you play? These are the ones that I pull out to say, this is what's out there as a good introduction, just so that they can experience it in a very positive, uplifting way. Games in my collection that I enjoy as well. These are not just games that I'm saying, you know what, these are good for you, but not for me. No, these are games that I go, I want to play these with you as a great introduction because I enjoy them just as much. Even now, having X amount of games in my collection. We're not talking about that number. So, there you go. Prelude, over. Criteria, over. Not 2-player games, because this is sort of the group thing. 2-player games, we'll do a whole separate video on that of introductory or my best favorite 2-player game, something along those lines. That'll be later. But let's get into it. Now, we're actually going to start with 3 honorable mentions because it's worth talking about. And CATAN is CATAN. Someone pulls out CATAN like my brother-in-law did 2 summers ago at the cottage and wanted to play because they had just gotten it and they were just getting their feet dipped as starting their own collection. You know what I say? I say yes, absolutely. Because, yeah, it's not the most perfect game. But, again, this list is all about having fun. And as weird as it is, I still have fun with this. I like this game still. It is what it is. Take that for what you will. There's enough else talking about why CATAN is where it is. It is the ultimate bridge to where we are. And for that, I am eternally grateful because it was my first experience as well. It took my board game virginity. There you go. Second up. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. This one's more new, but I'm going to give you a lot of different aspects of gaming mechanisms in this list as well, trying not to make them too samey. This is Flick of Faith. This is by far the most recent game. Actually, it might not be. Close to the most recent game on this list in terms of release. This is a very, very, very fun dexterity flicking game onto a map where you have to get them onto a circle, onto other people's islands to get points. And it takes the whole craziness of all sorts of different rules, making you to flick them in different ways. Everything from using your opposite hand to tossing them onto the table to flicking 2, 1 with each hand at the same time, that you're voting on in terms of gladiator Roman style with thumbs up or thumbs down when the 2 creeds are announced at the beginning of the round. And it's just, again, it's a lot of fun and it's quick to play, and it can explain it to anybody that it's just flicking in a weird, funny, enjoyable manner. And that can't be overrated. Plus, I mean, look at this aesthetic. This aesthetic is absolutely tremendous. The playmat is amazing and it just works. So again, honorable mention number 2. Last honorable mention, this one's going to surprise people a little bit probably, but this is Isle of Skye. This almost made the top 5, but I found one of the other games that I thought just edged it out because this is also just a step above most of the other games on this list. But this is the game that I introduced people to in terms of, okay, tile laying, pattern matching, but also a little bit of auctioning in that sense. And once people get it in terms of especially the variances of the scoring conditions in each of the rounds, as this 2 to 5 player game can really change things up, it's just a lot of fun because it's also combining all of those different elements in a very unique but also very easy to understand way that I say really hasn't been replicated in that sense. And this is another game that I just love to get out that I don't get played enough. And I would love one of the expansions for, but at the same time, I know I don't play it enough to get it played enough in the base game by itself with all of these different win conditions and scoring ways. So again, it just does a beautiful thing with all of these interactions without making it too complicated or heavy at the same time with the base game. So that's why it's honorable mention number 3. Now, number 5 on this list of the games that I pull out and want other people to play with. Number 5 is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. This is my favorite of the social deduction party-esque style games because it just works so well. It's not the most elegant game. It is still just a step up from Mafia shouting at each other random accusations, but it's the fun of interpreting what is going on and why the investigator is placing the little clues on the specific cards in the location that they are. I mean, yes, you can play with the accomplice, you can play with the witness and the forensic scientist, but the basic investigator versus murderer is just the game in a nutshell at its core of elegance and simplicity. I mean, you have the locations, you have your evidences, all of these things that everyone is trying to guess why you may have put down the clue there silently based on what the murderer or the murder weapon is in the first place. And the deduction, the reasoning, the lack of reasoning, the semi-chaoticness of it just makes it an enjoyable experience where you can do a little bit of trash talking, but you can do a little bit of deduction at the same time and just throw out random stuff and see if you can get it right. And the objective isn't really even to win, it's just to have fun again. And this game epitomizes fun from that side of things for me and the people I've played it with, and so that's why it's number 5 on this list. Number 4, this is going to be a slightly different, interesting twist. This is Love Letter. Love Letter is the basic card game where have a card, draw a card, play a card. Boom. Last one standing wins. Maybe you want the princess, maybe you don't. I'm going to go a slight tangent on this as well with Infinity Gauntlet, which is the newest or one of the newest iterations of it that just takes it one step further, increases the interaction, and makes it a one versus all. And, again, not many people are a one versus all, but especially with the tie-in from the Marvel aesthetic and the Marvel universe as a whole in terms of multimedia, people are more familiar. People can understand this. And it takes it just a slight notch up with the Infinity Stones. So you have to be the one that's slightly more experienced to be Thanos the first time around. But after that, it's a cinch. And that's what makes it fun, is it just gives that notch off of a little bit of tension, a little bit of player elimination, a little bit of rushing to try and knock people out versus getting all the stones in the first place. And I dare say I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but I ended up getting it in the math trade. And the best thing that happens with a game on this list, the most ideal situation is exactly what happened with this. And this was not with Noob. This was with my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law who have played with us for, the past couple years. They said, that was a lot of fun. Let's play it again. Let's play it again. The 4 magic words you always want to hear, and that's why this made the list at number 4. Number 3. This is Beyond CATAN. After I played CATAN in college, in undergrad, several years later, I finally went to a local board game group. This was the first game we played there. I had no idea about anything. Haven't played a thing. All alone, don't know anybody there, and here comes King of Tokyo. Next time around, a month later, played it again, brought my wife. It's like one of the 2 times she ever went with me. And I fell in love. I fell in love with this hobby, and this was the game. Yeah, this is monster battling dice Yahtzee. So what? The variable powers, especially with the power-up expansion, or, I dare say, the dark version, which, if I'm going to recommend one without buying anything else, it's dark over everything. But if you're going to get the base game, getting the power-up expansion makes it that much better as well. It's just fun monster battling dice Yahtzee. And again, a lot of people hate on the player elimination, but what this game captures is the crowd rooting after they get eliminated, going for one person to the other as that one person tries desperately on their last turn to eliminate the person who is otherwise about to take them out with their last gasp. And the tension that it creates, and the laughter, and the ridiculousness of not getting the roll that you want, or somehow getting the Yahtzee of all Yahtzees of the rolls to win the game with a little bit of crazy powers and a little bit of take that, it just works. It's just, again, to not sound trite and reiterate and repeat myself as a broken record, it's fun. It's fun for me. And it is contagious in that fun. When you're having fun, other people will have fun too. And so, that's why King of Tokyo for me is on this list. It just works. Number 2, Space Base. Space Base. Pull this out all the time. It's a little bit slightly confusing when you're explaining the, on my turn, you do this. On your turn, this is what you get. And it's the sum or the individual. But as soon as it clicks after going around the table once or twice, it keeps people engaged. It's easy to explain. It's easy to play. And it's just a great time. And as messy as this looks, it's all very intuitive. It all makes sense in the context of things. And it's completely variable in terms of what you're going to get game to game. So no two games play the same, especially when you start throwing in the Shy Pluto expansion and the different types of ways and roles that matter in that. And the different ways to explore win conditions. I haven't really found a great way to win. In fact, of the 24 times we've played, because we log our play counts for the most part, maybe, I've won once. Once! I am 1 for 23, folks. And I keep wanting to go back because it's Dice Yahtzee in a different form, and it engages you, it keeps you thinking, and it keeps you on your feet of how you're going to react and whether or not that slot in the 1 through 12 is worth it versus the other. Are you going for higher probability? Are you going for higher reward? Are you going for secondary gain on other people's turn? How are you maneuvering? Are you going for the most gold to buy the higher levels sooner? Are you maximizing out on all of the numbers at the lower levels? Are you optimizing in what way you want or not? It's a great game. Now, the only thing I will say about it is these little things in the upper right-hand corner here. I'm not a big fan of the pay extra amount of money to just buy one-time victory points to close off one of your lanes. It's a little anticlimactic. That's my biggest complaint about this game. Apart from that, though, you pull it out, I'm playing. Boom, there you go, number 2. Now, number 1, what's number 1? I mean, it's just easy to get to the table. It's a filler I use all the time, and I think it just works because it's just a slightly different take on something that is very intuitive, and that's the game. The game. Again, it's a horrible title. If you have to try and find it in Board Game Geek, it's ridiculous. If you have to try and Google it, I'd like to buy the game, please. Seriously. Anyway, the new color scheme, take it for what it is, but playing cards going up from 1 or down from 100, trying to best maneuver while cooperating on the team without conversing, trying to end up with the least amount of cards unplayed at the end when somebody just can't play in the first place. This iteration is by far my favorite. I have the head-to-head 2-player version, face-to-face, which is basically like a sprint to the end. Again, a nice, slight, clever twist on things. But if you give me the option, the original is still king. I love it for what it is. It engages people. It makes people think slightly differently, especially with the nuance of going backwards by 10 and whether or not you should play as many cards as you can or you should save them and try and ration them so that other people might be able to play in the meantime. Creates a nice delicate balance, again, without creating too much analysis paralysis for people who have not had the experience or the nuance of this game in the first place. It just works, and it's not too overwhelming, and again, it creates that moment of achievement at the end as a group, which is great when you're trying not to isolate or pick on somebody who may have less experience. Cooperatively, it fits the bill perfectly. That's it. That's the list. 5+, 3 honorable mentions. What do you think? What are games that are in your collection that you go, somebody new comes into your house, this is the one I'm pulling out for them? Especially multiplayer. I mean, 2-player is a little bit different, is a little bit, unique. You can play a lot of these at 2-player, but these are designed to be best at more. I'll do a whole nother video looking at just 2-player games sometime in the near future, but these are my 8, as they say. There you go. Let me know what you think. How wrong did I do? Tell me what I did wrong in the comment section. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Stay classy. Throw me a sub and throw me just some views. Let's get blown up this year. Or what's left of it? 2022? I don't know. You got it. Okay, let's go.